It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Great to have you in studio with us today. Yavapai Silent Witness Director Steve Skurgit joins us once again this year. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you again.
You too.
You were here in the spring.
I was.
Yeah.
The last Catch-22.
Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? So you sent this one out, and I thought, yeah, let's get Steve back. We'll get Steve back because, we want to make sure Silent Witness keeps getting phone calls from folks. And we'll remind everybody how Silent Witness works. And when you call, you remain anonymous, which is the key word on that.
Exactly.
So we'll get to that towards the end of the show. But you got a Catch-22 coming up. And, of course, we'll participate in that. It's the 33rd.
The 33rd, yeah. And basically what that means is we've been doing this thing for probably a little bit more than 15, 16 years now. We try to do 2 phases each year. This is the 33rd phase. 17 years. The first couple years we just did 1 a year, and then probably about the 3rd year we kicked it up to 2. And the main reason is because it's very popular. Right. People called in and said, why don't we have another one? You know, obviously those are probably some of the people that picked up an extra $500 for calling in. Yeah. The neat thing about Catch-22 is the real key, and the reason we did this back 17 years ago, was not only to get more word out about criminals who were wanted and on the loose, but to focus on high-profile criminals. Because there were a lot of guys out there who were wanted for high-profile crimes, sexual assault, child molesters, homicides, and things like this. And when those leads get cold, they just seem to be forgotten. And the detectives have more calls coming in all the time, or more cases coming in all the time. So a lot of those just get put on the back burner. They don't get revisited, especially if they don't have any leads. There's no reason to revisit them. Right. Well, Catch-22 comes in and gives the listeners and the viewers at home just a little bit about that case. And for one listener to jog their memory and say, wow, I do remember something. And I wonder if they ever talked to such and such. And then they call us, they give us a name, that's a new lead. We open the case back up and we go after them. We have arrested 70 high-profile felons since Catch-22 started.
That's awesome.
We have paid $35,000 in cash rewards. Wow.
And this last one we did, before we get to the last one we just did, which was spring. Was it June?
Yeah, June.
June. It was June.
May or June.
May or June. When we first started this, because I picked it up right away, you called me and asked me if I'd be willing to do a Catch-22 where each day we aired information.
Correct.
And I said, you bet. And I think I had only been in the news for a year at that time. So you caught me when I was easy to say yes to anything. But anyways, do you remember, did we do the first ones in the spring, or was it, because I know the Christmas one, the December Catch-22, we do that for the sole fact that people need the money for the gifts and stuff.
Exactly.
And it's an extra little incentive.
Yep.
Do you remember at the beginning, were we doing it in the spring, or was it in
the first one was in May of 1997.
Okay.
And I believe, like I just said, I think we did 2 or 3 years with just 1 phase. Excellent. And it was in May or June.
And I think I recall you calling me and saying, hey, what do you think of a December one? That's a good incentive.
Well, when we did the December one, the very first one, we had a lady call, and she said, I know where today's Catch-22 is. And I said, you know, of course, there's a series of questions that we fill out from a report form. But I said, why are you so certain? And she said, this is my son. And it's time he step up and face the music. And she said, furthermore, I'm raising his children. Yeah. And I need $500 to buy them Christmas presents. And she said, this is where you can find him. We arrested him later that day in another state. Grandma got $500. She called me a few days later, and she said, I purchased a baseball glove, a bicycle, and she went down and she said, you've made these kids Christmas. So we said, we got to do this in December every year. Yeah, it works. It works. It works really well. Really
Yavapai Silent Witness really does work, and that's the key, and that's why we keep having you come back, because it's really great to be able to refresh everyone's memories just how well silent witness works. Now this last one in May, we had a good one. Now there was a few years there where it was kind of hit and miss on how many felons that we would actually wind up getting calls on. But these were big time tough ones, and most of them seemed like they had left the area completely, left the country possibly,
exactly.
and they
Sure.
were just gone. There was the 3 guys I recall down in Wickenburg.
Yeah, there was a multi-homicide down there
Right.
that 4 guys were involved in. One was arrested, and the 3, matter of fact, they're still at large.
Yeah, they're still at large. And there were cases like that would keep going. But this last time in May, you brought some of the, I guess, they're all serious felons and fugitives.
True.
But they weren't quite those guys that we'd been talking about for a couple of years.
Exactly.
We had some new names and some new faces.
We did.
And it worked really well.
Serious felony charges, but no homicide suspects or rape suspects, things like this. But some major serious offenders in the drug world.
There were some people that were
burglars,
beating up each other, and then assaulting police officers as well.
Exactly.
I remember that. So
Yep.
They
And
were good guys.
I believe we arrested 5 the last go around.
You did?
5 or 6.
I have the notes because we
Oh,
did.
do you?
You sent that press release
Okay.
out. And we did a little story.
Good.
We've been airing it for the last couple of weeks, but during the last phase of Catch-22, which aired this past spring, May, 5 felons were arrested, and a total of $2,500 in cash rewards were paid to the 5 successful callers. Pretty awesome.
Yep.
5 out of 22.
It is.
That's really great.
It is, and since then there have been 3 more from that list in May that were arrested, but not due to a silent witness call.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have 8 new ones on this next phase of Catch-22.
Awesome. 8 more. 8 new ones, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you go about figuring out who you want?
Well, the first thing I do is I send an email to every agency in Yavapai County, law enforcement agency, reminding them what Catch-22 is, because you always have a lot of new players. You know, every agency is getting new detectives in, people are being promoted and this sort of thing. So I send out an email reminding them what Catch-22 is, how it works, how long we've been doing it, how successful it's been, and then I ask them if they have any serious offenders they would like featured in this next phase of Catch-22. Unfortunately, that doesn't work real well. But
yeah.
I will get a couple agencies that call and say, yeah, would you run this guy, would you run that guy? Meanwhile, I've gone to the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office warrant detail, and I've asked them to give me a list of the 40 most high-profile serious offenders, and then I go through those. Now, for instance, maybe for some reason, let's say the county attorney's office decides they're not going to extradite this person, so they're out.
Right.
We don't have a photograph, they're out. We don't have any information other than this individual was arrested one time in Yavapai County. Probably going to throw them out. We want people who we have a photo of, people who maybe were established here at one time, we knew where they worked at one time, we knew where they lived at one time, we know what they drive, and a lot of that is even sketchy.
Sure.
And so when it gets right down to it, the last 22 are the ones that fit into that category the best, even though a lot of them, and I know the listeners are probably saying, well, a lot of the people that you read about, you don't have an address, or you don't have a make of a vehicle, or you don't have a real good description of them. This is the best we can do.
Right.
So the jail gives me those 40 or ever how many. We sit down and we go through them, and when I say we, me and the jail, and because not always do we have the information available at hand where they can pick up additional information on extradition, more physical traits and things like this. And then we come up with 22.
Awesome. We're going to take a break.
Okay.
All right. Yavapai Silent Witness Director Steve Scourge in studio today. The number for Yavapai Silent Witness is 1-800-932-3232. Stick around, countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
One of the areas still maturing in an adolescent brain is the prefrontal cortex. So when we take drugs, we alter key motivational circuits, changing the wiring needed for the cognitive function of the brain, until we can't totally deal with things like memory, thinking things out, and even learning stuff.
The signs are there. So is our help. Visit the partnership at drugfree.org for practical advice on coping with teen drug use.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
Welcome back to Countywide. Yavapai Silent Witness Director Steve Scourge in studio today. We got a Catch-22 program starting on December 1st. The phone number is 1-800-932-3232. If you know of a fugitive or somebody who's wanted by the law, give it a call and see what happens. You might get a cash reward. It's not always a $500 cash reward, but the Catch-22 guys and gals, they're each worth $500.
$500 for
Right.
Catch-22,
Guaranteed.
except there's one, and I believe it might be day 18, 20. This was a homicide in Prescott. An individual was killed when he was attacked by a man with a knife. And some friends of the victim came forth afterwards and put up $3,000 for a reward to be offered. I take it back. They put up $2,000. Silent Witness was already offering a $1,000 reward. And we're never going to go back. Once we set a figure, a reward amount, we're not going to go back just because it's Catch-22 and say, no, it's only worth $500. There's a $3,000 reward for that individual.
There's a reason why you set a $1,000 reward on some of these people.
Well, and what happened was the Prescott Police Department came to me immediately and said, we need help in solving this crime. It's a homicide. Obviously, we're going to offer $1,000. Unfortunately, it didn't get solved. And it's quite an old case. It's probably 10 years old now.
Yeah, it's not that old.
Yeah.
I would think that the people who call you, if they hear me say the name or they read the name in the newspaper, the people, they typically know who these people are. Friends, acquaintances, family members.
Sure, absolutely.
So is it really necessary to have their vehicle make that they used to drive and their license plate number? And I mean, an old address, yeah, that's probably a good idea. And then you throw a name in it. Maybe it was an old neighbor of mine or something. And it's like, oh, I remember that guy. He used to live next door to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the more information, the better. And if this is a recent case and we have a vehicle description, you know, maybe he's still around. Maybe that vehicle's still around. Maybe somebody sees it. Usually the vehicles come into play when an agency calls me and says, we just had an armed robbery, or we just had a bank robbery, or something like that, and they left the scene in a such and such vehicle. Then Silent Witness will take that information. We put it on our website, which happens to be www.yavapaisw.com. We put everything that's going on in Yavapai County that, again, is high profile in the criminal nature. We put it on our website as breaking news, and you can go on there and read all about this. There's all kinds of information on there about cold cases, and almost every one of those are homicide cases. And there are a lot of cold cases in Yavapai County. So we'll go on the breaking news, also send a public service announcement out to folks like you. You'll get on there and say, and he left the scene in a black Chevy pickup.
Right.
So now we got all those people out there looking for that black Chevy pickup.
Right.
So,
okay.
So that's why we like to get as much information as possible, including vehicle information, direction of travel, and things like that. But I think the real key to this program is people have learned they can trust us. They never have to give their name unless they want to, and a lot of times I will discourage that if I happen to be the call taker. And what I'll ask somebody is, does anybody else have this information, or is it just you? And maybe you don't want to give us this information right now, because if you're the only person that has this information, the bad guy's going to know it was you that called. So we'll
so a little consulting too, almost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of times where that comes into play, maybe it's a female calling about her husband or boyfriend who has assaulted her in the past, and she's calling about his drug involvement, or maybe he's doing burglaries or things like this. And I'll say, you know, how many people know this? Well, probably none, because he confided in me last night. Maybe you don't want to do this. But at the same time, sometimes those ladies will say, no, I do want to do it, because I want him off the street, and I'm not afraid of him.
I'll feel safer then.
And this, exactly, yeah. So
when I call you, what do I need to know in order to help you progress forward?
We need a name of the bad guy, an address, and just exactly what it is they're doing. Now, if we don't have all that information, we're probably going to take your call anyway. But a lot of times what I'll do, again, if I personally take the call and you say there's a guy down the street and he's selling a lot of dope. Well, how do you know? Well, there's a lot of traffic coming in and out, and the word around the neighborhood is he just moved in and he's a drug dealer. Oh, okay, that sounds pretty good. What's his name? I don't know. What's he look like? I don't know. I have never seen him. Well, what's the address in that house he just moved into? I don't know, but it's across the street from mine, 7 houses down. I'm not going to take that information. If I took that information and wrote a report up to reflect what I just said, Pant would call me and say, oh, you know, we're not psychic. We can't do this.
It's a whole lot of maybes.
So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I want this information, but you need to do some more work. Talk to the folks in the neighborhood, see if you can get a name. If nothing else, get a license plate off his vehicle. Then we can run that and maybe get his name, okay? At least get me that house number. And I want the house number and a description of the house. You know, it's a stick-built house, it's 2 stories, it's gray with white trim.
Last thing you want to do is build the wrong house.
Exactly, exactly. Got a picket fence in front of it. And these are the kind of things we need. The other thing that we get a lot of calls on, and people don't realize this, but we don't take calls on misdemeanors. If somebody calls and says, you know, every morning when I'm going to work, there's a guy that runs a stop sign in front of me, and I'm just getting sick and tired of it. You need to call your local police department. That's not a silent witness call. And I understand people say, well, I don't want to give my name, though. Well, you don't have to. You can call the police department and remain anonymous. Just tell them, no, I don't want to give you my name, but I would like somebody to stop this guy from running that stop sign every morning. That's all there is to it. We get a lot of calls like that we have to have them refer to a police agency. Unfortunately, a lot of the callers say, well, what good are you, you know, and they cuss at us and hang up the phone, which tells me they're probably not going to call the local law enforcement agency. But that's where they need to start. Silent witness is all about felons, serious offenders, high-profile criminals. That's who we're after with silent witness. We're going to pay a cash reward regardless every time a caller's information leads to an arrest. Now, this is really broad. Let's say, for instance, Paul, you call me and you give me that same scenario. A guy just moved in down the street. I got his name now. His name is Joe Blow. It's 123 Maple Street. We get a lot of traffic between the hours of 8 and midnight in the evening. Cars are coming and going all the time. Well, Pant gets this information, and all drug information in Yavapai County that is received by silent witness goes to Pant. It doesn't go to the individual agencies. It goes to Pant. So they go out and they work it, and they finally get up to the point where they maybe nothing else happens, so they're going to do a knock and talk. And they knock on the door. A guy comes to the door, and they ask for Joe Blow, and the guy says, Joe's not here. Well, the police are going to find out who this guy is. Well, this guy was never in the scenario, but the police get his name, and they run him They run a wanted check on him, and he comes back wanted. The caller's going to get excuse me, going to get a reward for that because they were responsible for sending us there in the beginning. Now we find out that there's a car parked out front and it's stolen. Now we've recovered a stolen car, we've arrested somebody, and while we're standing there talking, another guy comes walking up, the police check him out, he's wanted. Now our caller's going to get credit for 2 felony arrests, recovering a stolen vehicle, and the guy he originally called in on never did show up. But we're still going to pay the caller because if they wouldn't have called, we wouldn't have gone there in the first place. So it was their call and information that gave us the right to go there.
Let's take another break.
Okay.
We have to do it. Yavapai Silent Witness Director Steve Skurja in studio today. 1-800-932-3232 is the number for Silent Witness. Stick around, countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
I would steal pills from my friend's mom.
We talk about all the common drugs, but never prescription medication.
I was addicted to pills.
Had I more knowledge, I would have done things differently.
Secure your medications and talk with your kids. Visit drugfree.org.
Thanks for calling the GED Pep Talk Center. Jerry Stiller speaking. Your level 7 in-your-face pep talk.
I can keep pushing you. Believe me, I'm good at it. But at some point, you're going to need to start pushing yourself.
See, once you've got your GED diploma, you'll feel so good about yourself.
You tell them. You can't change your past, but you can definitely change the future.
That makes me so happy, I'm ready to bust out a dance.
Mr. Trejo, can they transfer this guy to you? My gentle technique isn't really working. You need something a little more
persuasive. Yes. You listen, and you listen good.
Hey, where's my sandwich? Terry? Terry!
Take it from me, the King DMC. It's a real cool thing to get your GED.
Get that diploma!
Now hold on and we'll find you free GED classes. Capiche?
Whatever motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
Ronnie had huge aspirations.
He knew he could get pills in the community.
He found his body in an apartment in Telford.
I never thought my son would take prescription drugs without a prescription.
Secure your medications and talk with your kids. Visit drugfree.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Paul David, Yavapai Silent Witness Director Steve Skurja in studio with us today. We've got a minute left of the program. You wanted to make sure you talked about the golf tournament that we hold in September for Silent Witness.
I did.
Very successful.
Just this past September, we did the 29th annual. It was a major success. We had a lot of people, a lot of retailers, people in the golf business and such step up. A lot of people from the Verde Valley stepped up to help us. We had some really, really good prizes, silent auction, live auction. We made a lot of money. Next year is going to be our 30th annual.
It's a big deal.
It really is, and we want to make it bigger than ever. And I want to remind the golfers out there that you want to make sure you play in this tournament. We're going to have some awesome prizes, some great giveaways, and you know, we like to give a nice gift away every year to the golfers. And the 30th annual is going to be something spectacular.
And we'll talk about that when it gets a little closer, too.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right. Hey, thank you so much for coming in. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year if I don't talk to you as well.
Yep.
That's today's
back at you.
Yeah, that's today's Countywide. I'm Paul David. We'll talk to you again next time.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.